Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage A podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we are discussing last night's Monday Night Football game, which will be a very quick recap. The college football playoff first round, we will recap those four games, and then at the end of the show, we will preview week 17 of the NFL season, give our best bets and our picks for every game. Before we get into it, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button. I know for a fact there's people that are watching that are not subscribed, so if that's one of you, just scroll down. It takes 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, helps us out greatly. We will start with college football. Notre Dame beating Indiana 27 to 17. Notre Dame was in control for almost the entire game here. IU had a couple late touchdowns to make it interesting. Kirk Signetti, embarrassing to say the least from him. You can't go on game day and talk how he talked. And it was just funny how he cherry picked it. He's like, we crushed top 25 teams. 2 years ago, we beat Coastal Carolina, and they ended up being the number 25 team at the end of the year, or we beat whoever. It's like, all right, well, you don't beat top 25 teams. It's just a fact you haven't this year. And it didn't happen here. They were completely outclassed regardless of the scoreboard here. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Prince, so good. That combo of running backs for Notre Dame is just unstoppable. It's going to be a tough matchup for them against Georgia. I think Georgia is one of the best teams in the country, so it'll be very interesting to see. That is one of the two interesting matchups for next week, but we'll get into that later. IU, they uh they did what they needed to do in the regular season to be here. There's gonna be teams in this college football playoff in this format that are gonna get what happens with IU. It sucks for the playoff. It really does. You're gonna get teams who deserve to be there because of record, but don't deserve to be there because of talent, and it just is what it is. I know you're gonna fight for it. You love to watch teams get absolutely shit pumped in prime time, but it is what it is. It's a hard situation to manage because you're gonna get the people who cry over an 11-1 team not making it, even if they are significantly worse of a team than a team that has three losses. But it's neither here nor there. Notre Dame is a hell of a team. They're definitely a contender, and if they could beat Georgia, they for sure can win the Natty.
You better keep that same energy with Tennessee then, though.
I have been shit talking Tennessee all year. Like that's the thing is like everybody who's anti SEC, they're always gonna
So are
cherry
you
pick.
saying that Ole Miss or Alabama should have been in over Tennessee?
That's not what I'm saying. Tennessee got in the same way that IU got in and the same way that SMU got in. They won their games. That's fine. But Tennessee, of course, they beat Alabama.
They
That's
beat
fine.
Alabama. That's the
They
team on the
had
bubble.
they had the strength of schedule and they had the wins that would back them up to get in. IU didn't have those wins.
I mean,
They
but
didn't.
they had a closer game here than they had a closer game against Ohio State than Tennessee did.
That's fine. If you're going to argue this game here, obviously, okay, on the scoreboard, they lose by 10 points. But let's not act like Ohio State is really an eight seed. Like, Ohio State's one of the best
Ohio State's,
3, 4
yes, their
teams in the
best team.
country.
You played them closer than Tennessee did.
I mean, you could say what you want about that, but my main argument is SMU here. I'm fine with IU getting in. My main argument here would be SMU, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. IU, Notre Dame. Notre Dame had
You
control for
obviously
most of
want a
this
Big
game
Ten
at home.
tournament.
I don't want a Big Ten
It
tournament. I
seems
just
like that's
want
what
the
you
fair teams
want.
in. You
One
want
more,
an SEC
one.
tournament? What are you talking
That's
about?
what I'm saying.
You want an SEC
That's my
tournament?
counter argument of you saying that to me because I want one more SEC team in. I'm not arguing for all these teams to come out and put all the SEC teams in. That's not what I'm saying. So you saying that IU should be in and me saying that Alabama should be in. What's the difference there?
That IU beat the teams they should
Played
beat all
nobody. They played
season, but
nobody
they
with
beat
Ohio
the
State
teams
and they
they
got
should beat all
killed, bro.
season.
All right, that's fine. I Here's the difference. Here's the
You
difference.
know what I saw? You know what I saw
Go ahead.
going just this is just a random thought, but I saw this on Twitter somewhere, and I completely agree with it. The preseason poll should not matter at all. Do you agree
Oh
with that?
yeah, I think that matters in both
So
basketball
do
and
you
football.
think yeah, completely agree. I think that from it's never going to happen because they need a way to bring in money, views, all that, but wait till week 5 and then finally release a poll. Let the teams who are actually good stay in. I mean, we see in college basketball team could have 3 losses in 2 weeks. I mean, look at UConn. They had 3 losses at Maui, yet they stayed in the top 25 because of their preseason ranking.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree with that. And UConn, I mean they've also won back-to-back
They've
national
won,
championships, so that's gonna
yeah.
help. But I don't know. I think you kind of have to do a preseason poll though. It just makes it more interesting. And you know some of the teams that are gonna be good. Like it's not like they put out the preseason poll and the end poll looks nothing like it. Like you still have Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State. All those teams are still at the top. Like they knew those are going to be the best teams.
I just don't think Alabama deserved to be in at all.
Here's my
I
thing.
don't think they're. I still don't even think they're one of the top teams, to be honest.
Here's my thing. And I've said it over and over and over. I understand the deserving argument. Does SMU, based on what they did in the regular season, deserve to be in over Alabama? Yes, they do. But personally, the deserving, if it's not my team, if it's Kentucky in there and they deserve it with a worse strength schedule, it isn't going to happen because they're in the SEC. But if they deserve it, then I'm obviously going to argue for my team deserving it. I get that. But because my team's not in it, as a fan, I want to see the best games. And there isn't an argument to be made. Obviously, Alabama would have competed better with Penn State than SMU did. That's just a fact. And you can agree with that.
I mean, would SMU have competed better with Oklahoma than Alabama did?
That's what I'm saying. You care about a week 7 or what was it, week
You
13
have to. You
matchup.
have to
I
compare
care
about
about
the
the
games.
playoff.
You have to care about the games they actually
That's
played
fine.
and
But
looked
like you guys
terrible in.
cannot stop talking about how Oklahoma that lost to Oklahoma. They talk about that over
Yes.
and over. I get it. That's why they didn't deserve to be in. That's fine. But I guarantee if Bama won that game and it was a two-loss team and SMU was a two-loss team, but they lost because
Bama
they
would
had to
have been
play an
in.
extra game, they would have been in, but you would have said it should have been SMU. Don't say you wouldn't have. You would have said they played an extra game and that's why they had two losses instead of one. You would have said that.
I would not have said that.
It would have been Clemson and Bama and everybody on Twitter, the same people who are on their knees for Ashton Genty would say the exact same thing
Yeah,
because
that has nothing to do with
we
anything.
have a problem in college sports and it's been like this for the entirety of college sports. People fall in love with the underdog so much and they hate the big dog so much that their judgment's completely clouded.
I mean, in this situation, the big dog had 3 losses lost to Vandy in Oklahoma, though.
That's fine. I mean,
SMU
Vandy's a
beat
good team.
everybody they should beat.
That's fine.
And let's
Once
not
again, I'm
act.
not saying Bama deserved to be in. I'm just saying it would have been a
This
better game.
this is a team from Texas that had to go all the way out to Penn State, cold weather, bad
Would it
environment. They're
or
not
would it
used to
not
that.
have been a better game if Bama was in it?
I don't think we would know. We don't know. A lot of ifs there, huh?
I'm gonna
If
take
would, if and would.
I'm gonna take an SEC Alabama team to compete with Penn State better than SMU, who best win is what, Pitt?
I
Because if we
mean,
want to start playing transitive property, they lost to Clemson. Clemson lost to South
by
Carolina, and
a
Bama beat
game-winning
South
field goal.
Carolina. So, like,
They beat Pitt. They beat Louisville. That's a nice win. They barely. I mean, their 2 losses are the conference championship and then a very close loss to a good BYU team.
well, that's what I'm saying. That would be your argument for them in over Bama if Bama had two losses. Would it not be?
I mean, that would be the argument,
Exactly.
yes. But I'm not saying that I would have said that.
So that's why it annoys me when that's the only point anybody brings up is, oh, they should have beat Oklahoma then. Because you would have been saying the same shit if they didn't beat Oklahoma. And that's true. If they have
This is
one loss, that's different. Two losses, that would be the argument.
this is the first 12-team tournament. We can't go into this and not give these teams who have to play an extra game. I mean, on top of that, they already play an extra conference game. We can't have that hurt them too much.
Exactly. So you're agreeing that you would be
No,
arguing.
I'm stating that argument right there.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a valid argument to say they
I
have to
will
play an extra game.
I will keep saying Indiana, SMU deserve to be in over Bama and South Carolina. But I guarantee Bama and South Carolina would have played better games. Specifically SMU. Indiana was just bad for most of the game, but still, like specifically SMU.
I think if we're going most deserving, I almost would rather put South Carolina in there over Alabama.
But that's not what I'm saying. Though. I'm saying that those would be better matchups. Bama
Or
beat
better.
South
That's what I mean.
Carolina.
That's what I mean. I mean better
Bama beat,
matchups.
yeah. I mean, Bama did beat South Carolina.
They beat them, but towards the end of the season, South Carolina was looking
They
like a
got
way
hot,
better
yeah.
football team
I mean,
than Alabama.
and they made Clemson look dumb.
And the way Kirk Herbstreit talks, he wants the best 12. So
I know, and people are shitting on Kirk, and it's whatever. You know, it's the same thing with that we're talking about right now. It's words get twisted,
I mean, the
and it's like,
SEC.
oh, SMU shouldn't be in. They did this. Okay, no, he's not saying that. He's saying it would be better games, which is objectively true. But people hate the SEC so much that they cannot admit that
For
it's true.
a very valid
oh,
reason.
you have SEC bias. You have SEC bias. No, I just know that it would be a better game. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, the top recruiter guy who does all the rankings for recruiting came out and was pissed that Alabama and them didn't get in. And for some reason, a lot of the recruits going into these SEC teams get boosts when they commit to SEC teams. I wonder why, if the head recruiter is a massive SEC, Alabama, and South Carolina fan.
I mean, but the opinion doesn't matter. None of our opinions matter. But I'm not gonna like. It's just wrong to go out there and say that they wouldn't be better games. It's just denial. You know, Alabama would have put together a better game than SMU did. Come on, SMU didn't
I mean,
compete in that game.
their defense did compete. Their team did compete.
Their offense did not.
Jennings did not. The
Yes.
quarterback. He did not
I think
compete in
I
this.
would venture to say Jalen Milrow puts together a better performance there.
I don't think that would be very hard, but defensively, SMU did stay in that game, which I guess we can talk about that game now, um, since we kind of got a little,
Go ahead. I mean, we were going to get to it anyway, so it was just a matter of time.
yeah,
I
38
don't
to
have much to
10.
say at all. So go ahead.
Uh, yeah, a lot of turnovers for SMU in this game. Two pick sixes for Kevin Jennings, three interceptions total, 195 yards passing. The offense for SMU just, which was their strength all season, did not show up in this game really at all. They were able to hold Drew Allard only 127 passing yards. He wasn't great. But Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen both had solid days on the ground, couple big runs. Penn State rushing attack is pretty good. I still think Penn State Boise State's an interesting matchup. I think Boise State can kind of hold their own in that game, but I mean Penn State's obviously the better team. But neutral site, Fiesta Bowl, I still don't hate Boise State in that matchup.
Yeah, I like I like Penn State, but yeah, the I don't have shit to say about this game. Like I said, not competitive, not even worth a playoff game. This was like a
None of these
uh,
games were, but I mean
the
that's everybody
yeah,
wanted this 12-team playoffs, so now we get these non-competitive
yeah.
games, and it's
No, I mean I agree. I still would rather have these than not have them because we're gonna have a time eventually, especially if they fix the seeding and don't make the top four buys. We're gonna have a time where a five beats a 12 or a six beats an 11. That's gonna or 11 beats a six. We're gonna have that happen at
yes,
some point. It's just that point is not now, and the easy matchups are supposed to happen in the first round. Maybe we have an upset. We didn't even have anything close to that here because the 12 best teams weren't in. But when the second round comes in, we should have four good matchups in theory. But because of these dumb buys, we have Arizona State in there, who I think is a really, really good team. I love Arizona State, but without wide receiver one, they're cooked. They have no chance against Texas in my eyes. Texas has too much talent on the outside, and Arizona's just not going. Arizona State's not going to be able to compete with that unless they run for 300 yards on them, which I don't see happening. And then what's the other one that's I guess Boise State Penn State isn't as bad, but I still think Penn State will handle them fairly easily in that game. They're just going to be able to drag them into the mud. And unless that's another situation where I guess if Genti goes for 300, 400 yards, they have a chance. But Penn State's going to be able to muck it up. They're going to be able to get inside on them. I don't really see that being able to happen for Boise State. But the other two games are great
that's
games.
the final four of the other two games.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Oregon versus Ohio State is going to be a great game. I love Ohio State. I mean, we can move on to talking about Ohio State, Tennessee on that point. Ohio State, they're ready. They're a good team. We know how good they are defensively. There's question marks with Will Howard offensively. He was great in this game. 24 for 29, 311 for him. He was phenomenal. Travion Henderson went for 80 for the Buckeyes. Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka, of course, were phenomenal. I I really like this Ohio State team. I think they have what it takes to beat Oregon. Oregon gets screwed more than any other team in this entire bracket, especially with Texas and Penn State, or Texas and Texas and Penn State getting the easiest pass they could possibly get. I like I like Ohio State in that game. It's hard to beat a team multiple times. Ohio State, people forget Ohio State really should have won that game versus Oregon in Eugene earlier this year. I think they do win the one here in the Rose Bowl and we get the true Rose Bowl matchup. And if you could reseed this bracket, I think you'd have to go Oregon, Georgia, oh, Ohio State, Texas, probably. And then you get Penn State as the five, and they would have to play Clemson. Still like that matchup for Penn State, but I think it's a little better than they're significantly better than the SMU matchup. Then you get who would be the six at that point? Notre Dame, probably. You get Notre Dame versus Alabama. That's a phenomenal game. It's like
If
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 you
if
just take away the deserving versus the best teams, because I mean that was the argument this whole time. I mean it's the same argument we have with the 14 playoff. It's always deserving versus the best teams, and you have the people who are call themselves college football purists that want every single regular season game to matter more than the Super Bowl. And
that's
then
how
you
it's
have the
always
people
been.
who genuinely just want to see good games and want to see good football. And I don't understand how that's so hard to grasp for some people. I don't
But
get
then,
that.
I mean, you're punishing the players then who went out and won, did everything they possibly could, but because you consider them worse, you're going to punish them and put them in a lesser bowl.
I mean, I don't
over
know
the
what
people who just go to a big name school and it would be a SEC school, so they deserve it more than they're just better.
it's not. I mean, if they are they better?
We don't know.
If they're better, then yes. If they're better, then yes. I do believe the best team should be in. Like I said, if it's my team in that situation, I want it to be most deserving. That's how it should be. But the people, like I said earlier, who are the college football fans who are so obsessed with this underdog thing, like just truly obsessed with it, they treat all the underdogs like they're their team, which is crazy to me. If I was an SMU fan, I'd obviously be arguing they're the most deserving. But it's hard to make that argument that they're a better team than Alabama. It's hard to make that argument.
I mean, we made this a 12-team playoffs. I mean, it's a 12-team playoff now. It was four. You have
Yeah.
to allow these teams that have a great season that are smaller teams. They don't have uh, big money like Alabama. They're not going to get this opportunity often. Obviously, Alabama will always be there. There's if they have their best possible season, which is pretty much what SMU have, and they still can't get in, I don't know what the point is then of even having a 12-team playoff for the teams like that.
And I get that point, which is I mean, it just all comes
And I mean,
down.
SMU had chances in that game early. They had a 4th and 1 on Penn State side of the field where they dropped a pass for a potential
We
touchdown.
can't argue they were in that game, man. We can't
I
argue
mean,
they were in
early
that
they
game.
had. I'm saying they had chances early in the game to potentially be in the game. They just didn't convert a single one, and
A
then Kevin
point, a
Jennings fell
single
apart.
point. Yeah. I mean, it. My biggest problem, and we could put a cap on this, but my biggest problem, and it goes both ways. The people who are arguing Alabama should be in, and they want to say that they're more deserving, that's incorrect. Those side of the people need to be able to acknowledge SMU is more deserving, and Bama would have made it a better game. That's my point. But that always also goes both ways. On your side, you are saying SMU is deserving, which I agree, but you're refusing because of your SEC hate. You're refusing to admit that it wouldn't be a better game. They were down 28-0 in the first half. I promise Alabama would not be down 28-0 in the first half of a playoff game. I'm sorry it wouldn't happen.
I don't have SEC hate. I just don't think the better team matters at all. Dude, look at the championship I picked for it. I picked Alabama or Georgia versus Texas with Georgia winning.
That doesn't, I mean, that hate and predictions are completely different things.
I don't have the hate. I just they genuinely they didn't they had all they had to do was beat a 6-6 Oklahoma team, win out, and they're fine. They didn't do that. Ole Miss, we're not even going to talk about Ole Miss. They didn't even deserve or a better team enough to even be in that conversation. But
Well, I don't think Ole Miss is better than Alabama or South Carolina, so I'm not arguing Ole Miss.
yeah, Lane
But
Kiffin though.
as a fan, I want to see a more competitive game. It's never going to happen because it's all going to come down to most deserving, and the majority of people, like I said, love that underdog mentality, which is that's just in sports in general. Everyone loves the underdog mentality, but it clouds judgment so much that the admission of what's in front of us is whatever, and we're going to sit here and watch 40-point wins and deny that the SEC team that's won what 7 national championships in the past like
That doesn't
15
matter at
years.
all. That
We're
doesn't
gonna
matter.
act like that team
That
wouldn't.
doesn't matter at all for this season.
I'm not saying it does, but acting like they wouldn't compete is crazy.
I mean, they would compete, but they didn't compete in an Oklahoma game, so
Yeah, I mean, we have one game we haven't talked about yet, Texas Clemson. Clemson at least kind of made this one competitive. This is the best game of
yeah.
the weekend, I guess. Jaden Blue went off for Texas. They had a million rushing yards in this game. What they finished with 292, almost 300. Cade Klubnik, pretty solid game for him. They had a solid end to the year. Of course, they lost that game to USC, University of South Carolina, but yeah, it is what it is. I don't have much to say about this. They made it competitive at the end, but they really didn't have much of a chance. I do believe the conference champion should be in though. They just shouldn't have buys.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. Texas was just too good rushing the football. If they can rush the football like this against Arizona State, they should win that pretty easily. And then going forward against one of the Big Ten teams in Oregon, Ohio State, they need to be able to run the ball. But Quinn Ewers also has to play better. He hasn't been passing the ball as well. He's going to have to figure that out a little bit. But this Texas team is good. Um, Defense needs to stay strong as well.
Did Tulane have one loss?
No.
They had two losses.
Yes.
Oh, they
They lost
lost
to
in their
Army.
conference championship. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, if they would have beat Army and had one loss, should they have been in?
No.
They're deserving though. They beat who was in front of them.
They lost. Who was their loss?
I have no idea.
I was
Probably
arguing that a little bit though when it was happening, but for Army.
yeah, I mean, it would have been sick to see. I'm not arguing it's not sick to see a low key team get to play in the playoffs. That's cool. I understand why people like to see that. But
No, no, they had more losses than that. No, they were 9-5. They
when it was
lost to
9-5,
yeah. They
maybe they
lost. I
just
forgot.
had
They
one
lost to
conference loss maybe.
Oklahoma, Memphis, Kansas State, and then Army in the championship, and then
Okay, so
Florida
yeah,
in their bowl game.
they had one loss regular season in the AAC to Memphis. That's
Yeah,
what I'm confusing it with. But yeah, my point still stands. I'm gonna die on this hill. I felt this entire way for the first 10 years of the 14 playoff. I always felt it should be the best four. Same reason. I mean, this is literally the Florida State Alabama debate all over again. They just chose to put in the better team last time instead of who's more deserving. And this
in that
time,
situation, when it's a 14 playoff, I almost agree with the better team. But when you expand it to 12, then I believe it's most deserving.
I mean, I
Because you're
got
already going to have, I mean, when you get down to 12, basically outside of like in this situation with Ohio State, I think they're one of the best teams. But you go 6-12, those teams aren't going to win a championship, in my opinion.
probably not,
But
maybe, but probably not.
I think Ohio State being an outlier here because I think they're a very good
I think
team.
Notre Dame they have a chance.
And but no, I think was Notre Dame 5 or
They're seven.
yeah. So there's a couple, I guess, but when you get to like 8-12, when you're battling for this one last spot, this team's not going to win the championship. I think at that situation, it should be most deserving.
Yeah,
Like when you're
I'm
1-4, it's just such a small window that you have to put the best four teams in.
so just to clarify, you because I'm not willing to punt the first round. You are willing to punt the first round just for the sake of putting in an underdog team who has no chance, but they beat the teams in front of them.
Well, in this situation, you pretty much have the underdog teams having to play the teams that are also very good, like Ohio State, Notre Dame,
Well, that's how it's going to be if you put in the
Texas.
underdog teams.
I mean, not if they do the reseeding, where the
But
top
they
four stay in the front,
SMU still would have had to play Notre Dame.
which I mean, that might be a better matchup for them.
They still get punked by Notre Dame, dude.
They still get punked, but I mean, like I said, I still think at that point it should be most deserving no matter what.
Okay, that I'm if as long as people can admit that they're willing to punt the first round in order to put teams in for pity reasons, I'm fine with
It's
that.
not pity
But you
reasons
have
though.
to admit
What
that
they
they
did
don't
was
have a
deserve.
chance.
I'm not gonna say they don't have a chance. I thought TCU had no chance against Michigan a couple years ago, and what'd they do?
I mean, then they got what they lose by in the championship,
Yeah,
66.
they lost, but they still won a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. If at some point in these playoffs they put in a team that is most deserving but isn't the best, and they go win their first round matchup, I'll eat my words. But I don't think that will ever happen unless you put in the 12 best, not the 12 most deserving. Which I mean, it's a semantics argument, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's what it is. We will give, I guess, a 30-second recap here. Packers Saints 34-0. This game fucking sucked. This game was
yeah,
horrible. I tuned in like an hour into the game and it was 21 nothing. It was just completely pointless at this point. Toyotathon Jordan Love put up a whopping 182 yards of offense in this
didn't
game.
have to do anything. We're
Yeah,
good.
didn't have to. Not a good completion percentage either, though. 16 for 28. He wasn't really good in this game, I would say. Packers ran the ball super well. Emmanuel Wilson was great. Josh Jacobs has been great all year. Chris Brooks finds himself in the end zone in this game. Jaden Reed finally has a good game, goes 3 for 76. He's really struggled this year. He started out great. It looked like he was going to have a phenomenal season and then just really fell short late for the most of the back half. Honestly, even like the back 3/4 of the year. But yeah, Packers did what they had to do. Saints team, they're figuring out how to tank finally. Not having Kamara basically was a death
Yeah,
sentence in this
Weller.
game even with even with Rattler in, they would have had a much better chance if they had Kamara in this game. And yeah, I mean, what do you even say? Packers took care of business. They have a much bigger game next week. I'm annoyed with the fact that the Vikings get to play two teams offshore weeks down the year. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah. This Saints team really wasn't in this game at all. Packers -14 was a incredibly easy bet for every minute of the game.
Did I take the
Saints.
Saints?
No, yeah, I think you took the Packers.
I did. Thank God I took the Packers. Yeah.
Um, the Saints, like you said, they finally are trying to tank maybe a little bit. At 5-10, it's already a little too late. But on top of that, next week it looks like Derek Carr will be back. which is interesting for the Saints to make that move. But Spencer Rattler was not good in this game. Doesn't look like he's a great NFL quarterback. Maybe a solid backup or a guy that can come in, but just the Saints offense didn't have it. I guess he doesn't really have much to work with. The receiving room for New Orleans right now is very, very bad. Really no rushing attack. The Jamal Williams fall off is pretty sad to see, but it's been like that for a couple years now.
He's getting
Packers,
older.
yeah. Packers dominated this game, rushing the ball 188 yards on the ground. Game was over pretty much from the start, so nice win for the Packers. Trying to, I don't know if this clinched the playoff spot already or if I think this is what clinched the playoff spot. Yeah,
Yeah, because Matt LaFleur 5 and 6 years.
5 and 6 years. Yeah.
Which I mean, you're on the Packers. I think you're gonna be fine regardless. That seems like one of those teams where it's like a Ryan Day situation. It's like the Packers just
I
win
I put
regardless.
the Packers in like the group now with the Steelers at this point.
Oh, I mean, I
They
think
just
they've
find
been
a ways to
there.
always be good.
Yeah, they're gonna no matter who their head coach is, they're gonna be fine. I mean, they were dominant with Mike McCarthy, so
Yeah.
that should tell you right there. But all right, are you sure Derek Carr's gonna be back next week? I didn't think he was.
I know I didn't think it either until I was looking it up today. Yes, he
Well, they're
sounds like he will be.
point and a half dogs at home versus the Raiders with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make any sense.
They're hopeful Derek Carr can return.
Yeah, that doesn't even make any sense. But we'll move on here. Week 17 preview. These 16 game previews are getting exhausting now.
Yeah.
I'm ready for these last two to be over. But um, first game here, Christmas Day, Chiefs at Steelers. Chiefs seem to be getting better, and the Steelers seem to be getting worse. The betting stats for this game: Tomlin as a home underdog, cashing 74% of the time. Chiefs 16, 19, and 1 against the spread as a road favorite since 2020. Pickens should be back for this game. Steelers offense has been brutal without him. I'm pretty sure they announced him as back uh, like a couple hours ago. Steelers, they try to run this 1940s offense. It's going to be very tough against the Chiefs. They're going to have to let the ball go downfield. Russell Wilson's going to have to be a lot better than he was last week in order for them to win this game. Steelers should be able to contain this offense. Chiefs are a very up and down offense overall. Chiefs have been getting better though in this back half of the year at not turning the ball over. That was a problem early in the year, but the Steelers do lead the league in takeaways, so maybe they can force those turnovers back from KC. Kansas City has a pretty solid red zone defense. We know how bad the Steelers red zone offense has been. They're going to be kicking field goals in this game. Kansas City's pass rush is not amazing, so Rush should have some time in the pocket. I think, did we just get an injury alert about the Steelers?
I saw one. It's the Cardinals.
No, Cardinals, Paris Johnson, and Jonah Williams, season-ending IR. But, um, yeah, everything tells me here, matchup-wise, to go Kansas City, but I can't bet against Tomlin as a road dog, so I'm gonna take the Steelers +3.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I want the Steelers to win, obviously, to get the Chiefs needing to win next week. But Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are 0-3 versus Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs average 40 points per game in those three matchup. Mahomes averaging 330 passing yards and 4.7 passing touchdowns versus the Steelers. That's a incredible number. This is a different Chiefs offense, though. They have not been as good this season. Haven't scored more than 30 points in a single game this season. A win here would clinch that first overall seed, like you're talking about. Mahomes and the Chiefs wouldn't really have to. The starters wouldn't have to play until January 18th. That's a very very long break. Steelers have been on a little bit of a skid offensively, a little bit. Russell Wilson struggled, but he does know this Chiefs defense. He played a couple years there in Denver when going against them twice a year. Does have a win there. They're really gonna have to get after it. They won't be able to run the ball. We've seen this Chiefs defense be very good against the run, so Najee and Jalen Warren might be slowed down a little bit. It's going to be a lot on Russell Wilson's shoulders. I don't know if he can do it. They have been missing George Pickens, and that's hurt the offense a lot. So if George Pickens is back, that could be huge. I'd assume he's probably still questionable going into it, but they're going to need him to play tomorrow. I'm also going to go Steelers +3. I think they keep it close. Maybe it's just a field goal that does it. A lot of the money's on Kansas City -3 as well, so I'm going to go Steelers +3 as well.
Okay, moving on to Ravens at Texans, the other game here on Christmas Day. Texans are huge dogs in this game. Houston's defense is sixth versus the pass, 11th versus the rush this season. Ravens are going to need to score, though, whenever they're in the red zone. The weak part of Houston's defense is their red zone defense. They're ranked 27th in the league this year. Baltimore does not get sacked much because of Lamar's mobility, but Houston's pass rush has been really good all year, so they'll be able to get to him and at least make him have to run out of the pocket and maybe make some rash decisions. I really worry about Houston's rush offense in this game, but this is a favorable matchup for Stroud against the secondary. If there's a game where he can get right, this might be that game. They're at home too, indoors. Baltimore does not force many turnovers, so that is very good for Houston's offense, who has struggled with turning the ball over. Hopefully, they could hold on to the ball in this game. I think Houston and their defense are being massively undervalued here. Like I said, I don't love them as far as their playoff outlook and beating these teams in outdoor environments when the games matter the most. But here at a 5.5 point spread, I do like the Texans to cover those 5.5 points.
Yeah, 5.5 point spread for the Ravens here. The game is in Texas. Lamar Jackson, I think I saw someone that said he's not going to be in the locker room for halftime. He's going to be out there watching Beyonce, which I
Who
don't
said
like to
that?
hear that from Lamar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, but Lamar's been playing great recently. This Ravens offense is averaging 30 points per game. Their defense has been playing a little bit better recently. They need to continue to stop the run against Joe Mixon. If the Ravens can get Joe Mixon going, that could be huge for him. We've seen CJ Stroud struggling. This Texans offense as a whole has been struggling. The Texans are 1-6 when opponents score more than 22 points. I would expect the Ravens to kind of get to that number. They've been great offensively. Obviously, the Texans lost Tank Dell for the season with that knee injury. I'm pretty sure they signed Deontay Johnson
They
off
did.
waivers, right? So
Yep.
maybe a small little replacement. I don't know if he'll be ready to
Revenge
go by
game here for
tomorrow.
him.
Yeah, a quick revenge game if he's ready to go. I don't know. That's a pretty quick turnaround.
It'd be crazy if he went and like put up 150 on him or something. Just
Yeah,
let
just
off.
honestly, just getting a touchdown
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
would be nuts. CJ Stroud struggled. This Ravens defense has given up a lot of yards and points at times this season, but I like the Ravens to cover here. Their offense has been very hard to stop, and I know this Texans defense is very good against the pass, but I think the Ravens rushing attack can be a huge thing. Derrick Henry has been great this season, obviously, and Lamar is something that the Texans don't see too often. So I'm going to take Ravens minus 5.5.
Okay, moving on here to Seahawks at Bears. Bears are just 3.5 point home dogs here in prime time. Two of the bottom three O lines in football, in my opinion, with the Browns. It will be interesting to see which quarterback can thrive better in this situation. Both teams are averaging exactly 2.3 sacks per game. Seattle, for some reason, really struggled to even try to run the ball, but they should be able to run the ball here if they choose to do that. Sometimes I feel like they just kind of get away from it and they just start getting really pass heavy. They need to figure that out. This game means a ton more for Seattle than it does for the Bears, obviously, at this point. Bears don't turn the ball over at all, though, as we've talked about on recent pods. Seattle doesn't get many takeaways, so something's going to have to give there. I definitely trust Seattle's defense more, but these offenses right now are a toss-up for me. I'm really torn on this game. I'm gonna go Seattle minus 3.5, but I'm back and forth.
If Seattle loses this game, does that still make it they can win and get in? No, so they have to win this game then to
They play
stay
LA.
in the division hunt.
Yeah, they're out if they lose.
Yeah, so this is exactly a must-win game for
Yeah.
Seattle, no matter what. They were pretty hot, and then last 2 weeks they're coming off of a two-game losing streak. Struggled there. They need Geno Smith to step up. He has had moments where he's looked great, and then he gets to the red zone and just looks like a completely different quarterback. Those interceptions, 17 touchdowns, 15 picks. Against Minnesota, threw for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. He needs to limit the turnovers. That's going to be huge. This Bears defense hasn't been great this season overall. They're 31st in the league in opponents' yards per plate allowed, so a chance for some big plays. We've seen JSN have big plays. Obviously, DK Metcalf is a big play threat every time he touches the field, but JSN has been the main guy. Bears coaching has been a huge rough spot for them. We've seen them just Thomas Brown stepping as the interim head coach hasn't made the best decisions in terms of game management. I think Mike McDonald can have a huge advantage there. I think he's one of the better younger coaches out there right now. I think he has a potential to be one of the best coaches in the NFL here soon. Bears offensively 31st in offensive yards produced per play, and they give up the highest sacks per play in the entire NFL. So I like the Seahawks defense to get hot. slow down Caleb Williams early. We've seen the Bears have their struggles in the first quarter, to say the least. They tend to pick it up later in the game, but I think the Seahawks are going to get ahead early and kind of just command the game from there. I agree with what you said, though. The Seahawks, they need to stick with the run game a little bit. Kenneth Walker has been banged up pretty much all season, but Charbonnet is also, he's a solid backup. He can make plays. They need to continue to run the ball and just not be too predictable. Right now, you pretty much know they're passing the ball. They need to get to 50-50 there, but I like the Seahawks as well in this one.
Okay, moving on here to Chargers at Patriots. Chargers need this win very badly. Drake May, he's had a good season so far, but this defense will be able to turn him over most likely. The Pats have not been horrible rushing the football. They've actually been fairly middle of the league there. And LA is worse against the run than they are against the pass. So maybe we could see a little bit of an advantage there for New England. New England's O-line isn't great, and the Chargers have the seventh most sacks per game. So I love that matchup for LA there. I think they're going to be able to get to Drake May all game long. Rookie quarterback against a tough defense. That's going to be a tough situation for him. New England's pass defense isn't bad, but they give up a ton of rushing yards. That plays right into LA's hands. They'll be able to do what they want to do on the ground, which is what they've been trying to do for the past few weeks without Dobbins, and it's been tough against these hard run defenses, but they get a good matchup here. Chargers have the second least turnovers per game, and the Pats get no takeaways. So this should be in control throughout for LA. I think the Chargers cover this fairly easily unless the environment fucks them up too much. But if they're a Jim Harbaugh coach team, I like the Chargers -4.
Yeah, this Chargers team has had a couple rough weeks in a row now, but or well, last week they were great, but they do get J.K. Dobbins back from IR. It's a win and in at this point for the Chargers. They win any of their last two games and they make the playoffs. Getting J.K. Dobbins back could be huge. Patriots defense last week versus James Cook gave up a lot of yards. In the last 3 weeks, they're giving up about 160 yards rushing on about 5.1 yards per carry. This Patriots team has stayed in these games though. They've competed almost every week. They just can't really break through and get the win. I kind of expect a little bit of a similar game there, but I think the Chargers are going to be able to force them to score less points. Lad McConkey's been a good threat for Justin Herbert. He's been his main target. And like I said, getting J.K. Dobbins back is going to be huge for the rushing attack. I think that's going to help the Chargers take the lead early and dominate most of this game. So I'm going to go Chargers -4, even though it is a long flight to New England.
Okay, moving on here to Broncos at Bengals. Huge game here for both teams. Bengals open up as 3.5 point favorites in a must-win game. People are talking all about the Bengals, so I feel like this line might be a little bit of a trap. Denver's defense will be able to stifle the Bengals at least a little bit, despite having a bad last week. Since he gives up the 14th most sacks per game in football, Denver has the best pass rush in football. They should be able to get home to Burrow. Denver's defense is very underrated. They should skate all over this Bengals defense. I assume they will. No team with a defense this bad should be 3.5 point favorites versus a solid team. We've seen the Bengals not perform super well at home. I think the Bengals can definitely win this game, but more than a field goal favorite seems kind of dumb to take. So I'm going to take the Broncos +3.5.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think a lot of people are on the Bengals right now. Joe Burrow's been on fire. This line could be indicative of that. He's the first player in NFL history with 250 plus passing yards and 3+ passing touchdowns in 7 straight games. If they have life for the playoffs, they have a chance. They need to win out, need a couple teams to lose. I think it's only a 6% chance, but you get a game here where it's all up to you. You control your own destiny in it. You got to go out and have a big game there. Broncos defense has given up pass yards recently. Outside of the Colts game, they gave up 497 to Jameis Winston, 284 to Justin Herbert. That's Joe Burrow could have a big game there, and he's going to have to because we know how rough this Bengals defense has been. Broncos need to get the run game going. They've struggled in recent weeks to get that going and help open up the offense for Bo Nix. When they're able to run the ball, Bo Nix plays a lot better. I think the Broncos is the play here at +3.5, but I just kind of have to go with the Bengals -3.5. I need them to win, and I'm just going to trust Joe Burrow. And he's been playing at an MVP level. He's not really a candidate because of the team's record, but he's been playing at an MVP level. So I'm going to go Bengals -3.5.
I'm gonna have some wishful thinking bets in here too. So I
Yeah.
think it's that time of the year. But next one here, Cardinals at Rams. Rams open up as 6.5 point favorites here in a divisional matchup. Rams have the chance to clinch the division with a win, I believe. Cardinals are struggling right now pretty badly, especially offensively. The Rams are the 18th defense versus the pass and the 25th versus the run, so the Cardinals should be able to at least be solid offensively. We did see Jonah Williams and who else was it that went to
Paris
IR?
Johnson.
Paris Johnson, right? They both went to IR, so a couple of linemen down for the Cardinals. Cardinals ripped the Rams when they were beat up in September, like week 2 or 3. Connor's status is up in the air, but he wants to play in this game. We'll see if he does. Arizona has a top 7 red zone defense. I think that's a really bad matchup for LA. I don't like this line for either team, especially with the offensive lineman out. But I'm gonna just take the Cardinals minus 6 or plus 6.5, just because I just don't know which way to go. So I'll take the points.
Yeah, Cardinals really don't have much to play for anymore. They don't have any pressure on them at this point. They were eliminated after that brutal loss last week. They get to play free, and I think this is a chance for them to go out and have a pretty nice game. Trey McBride, he struggled last week, but overall this season he's been great. He deserves a touchdown. I hope they are finally find him in the end zone for one this year. I would really love the Cardinals to start forcing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. He has not met his rookie expectations at all this season. I'd like to see him come out though and have a big game, maybe get a touchdown or two, but just start getting a lot more targets. Really hasn't got the targets to even be considered one of those top receivers this year. We've seen Brian Thomas have 1,000-yard season. Malik Neighbors has been very successful. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of getting left behind. Brock Bowers for the Raiders is having a huge season. Rams, they need to win one of these last two games to clinch the division. They get their first chance here recently. Not really what we would have expected to see offensively from them. We would expect to see a lot of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the pass game, but it's been a lot of Kyron Williams in the run game, and this is another chance for them to continue that. Cardinals haven't been a great defense versus the run, so I could see Kyron having a big game. This Rams team dominating the time of possession. They have the more trustworthy QB as of late to go out and win the game for them. A win, and you get the division title here. But I'm going to go Cardinals plus 6.5. I think that's a huge spread. They don't have any pressure on them. They can go out there and just play football. I think they're going to keep it close. I think the Rams could still win this game, but I think the Cardinals are going to at least keep it close.
All right. I'm looking at DraftKings here, and it's just funny to see the things on the right side, like the promoted parlays. And this dude Dilla312 posted a 20 leg parlay, and in the description he has tips Cash App hashtag or $ Dilla312. So he's giving a 20 pick parlay and is asking for tips from the people who are taking it, which is just crazy. But we'll
Yeah.
move on here to imagine actually like being like, I got you, bro. Don't even taking his parlay and sending him a tip.
Or if you take the parlay and it hits, do you got to give him some bread for
I think
that?
that's
You
what
got to
he's
thank him.
I think that's what he's asking for. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
plus 103,000 parlay that he's from.
yeah.
So I guess if anyone hits that, but
DraftKings is in shambles if he wins that one.
right. He said he's only putting $1.50 to win 1,500 though, so I don't know if they'll actually care that much. But moving on here to Jets at Bills. Bills are still massive favorites despite an underwhelming week last week. Jets were able to muck up the game and keep it close versus the Jets last time they played. That was a game where Rodgers had the halftime Hail Mary against him. Jets defense has been up and down all year, but their pass rush should be stifled by a great O line. They've had a good D line all year, but the Bills O line has been one of the best in football. Jets red zone defense is pretty mid, but Buffalo should be able to score all over them the entire game. Buffalo's turnover differential is the best in football. They should be able to control this game. I think we see a lot of bounce backs this week from teams who had tough weeks. I think Buffalo is one of those teams. I think they go and they cover the 10.5 this week. But if if they don't cover the 10.5, I might never bet on them again.
Yeah, I see it at 9.5 right now,
Oh,
so
no,
it's
it's
a
moved to 9.5 now. Wow, I don't know if
so
I
it's a
would have bet.
little bit better for him there. Aaron Rodgers does sound like he has an MCL injury that he said he's playing through no matter what. He's already been pretty stuck in the pocket. He does have that one game where he had 40 rushing yards, but
Yeah.
he's been pretty much in the pocket most of the season. Expect to see more of that here. He's going against his Bills defense, who has had struggles recently, but they do play better at home. Or I'm just going to continue to say that and speak it into existence. Rodgers going to have a big day getting the ball to his two guys, Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Um, Robert Saleh was very good at beating this Bills team, or at least slowing down their offense. And Josh Allen kind of had the defense built to beat them. Without him, it'll be interesting to see how the Jets defense does perform against Josh Allen here. must win for the Bills to have a chance for that one seed. Really started to run this division. They can continue to do that here and just keep beating the teams every single time they play them. If the Chiefs do win, they don't have a chance of that one seed, but they get a chance here no matter what, get a win. And if the Chiefs win this week, you can just use next week as a bye week. I think they'd be the two seed no matter what. So then they can just use that as a bye week. Jets defense has been good versus the pass, have had a little bit of struggles versus the run. I think this could be a chance for James Cook to have a big game on the ground. Josh Allen also can have help on the ground, get a couple rushing touchdowns. I think the Bills game at home, I think they're going to go out and dominate it. I'm going to go Bills minus 9.5.
Okay, moving on here to Colts at Giants. Giants are 8-point dogs in this game. They seem like they're trying to lose at this point. They're doing a damn good job at doing that. Giants defense, regardless of their record and how they played on offense, is still a solid unit. I think the Colts will be able to score on them, but I don't think they're going to be able to put up crazy numbers on this defense. Giants' run defense is very bad, though, so the Colts should have a ton of success there. Jonathan Taylor should have another huge game like he did last week. Colts also on defense should be able to completely shut down this offense. Their defense is good enough, and this offense is bad enough for them to have a great advantage there. Colts allow just 1.8 sacks per game, so they should be able to stifle a pass rush. That is one of the strengths of this Giants team. Colts get a ton of takeaways and turnovers, so they should be able to get takeaways against New York. The only problem is they need to make sure they hold on to the ball. If they start turning the ball over, this game can get a little dicey. For some reason, though, I like the Giants to compete, so I'm going to take the Giants +8 at home, even though it just feels dumb.
Yeah, Colts have their second game of the season at MetLife Stadium, playing there twice in 1 year. Never really, that's maybe the one stadium you don't want to play at twice in a
Yeah.
single season, with all the injuries that can happen. Colts won the game last week and covered pretty much exclusively running the football. Only 11 pass attempts for Anthony Richardson in that game. Broke a franchise record in rushing yards. And they're going against a team here in the Giants that give up 142.6 rushing yards per game, which is second worst in the NFL. Even with Anthony Richardson struggling to pass the football recently and or move the ball throughout the air all season, this is a game where he can use his legs. Jonathan Taylor can use his legs, and they can just dominate the game running the football. The only way I see the Giants covering really here in this one is a backdoor cover, kind of like what we almost saw last week. They need to continue to lose to get that number one overall pick. I think a win would, at right now, before all the teams have played, would boost them all the way down to 7. I'd expect some of those teams to win, though, and it wouldn't be that bad. Giants' run defense is bad. Colts are going to want to run the ball. We've seen Drew Lock have his issues with turnovers recently. The Colts defense forces a lot of them. I think the Colts should cover this game -8. This is usually a game where the Colts win and dominate. It's really the game next week where if the Colts have a chance to make the playoffs, that they'll just fall apart and explode. So I'm going Colts -8.
Okay, moving on here to Panthers at Bucks. Bucks are 8-point favorites at home in this game. They need a bounce back win. Bryce Young has been good at home this year, and he's been good about every other game. This would line him up for a bad game on the road here, so he's due. Carolina's defense is really bad. Bucks should be able to put up like 35 on this defense. Carolina's O-line is actually decently solid. We'll see if Tampa Bay can get home to them. Tampa Bay had a really bad start with their pass rush in the beginning of the year. They've picked it up. They've moved up into the top 10, so we'll see if they can get home here. The Bucks secondary is obviously mid, but I just cannot trust this Carolina offense on the road. Like I said earlier, I think this is the week where we see a lot of these teams who had letdowns last week bounce back. I think this is going to be one of those games. I think Todd Bowles will have the boys ready. We've seen them bounce back from losses before, so I'm going to take the Bucks -8 to cover here.
Yeah, they have a chance to bounce back this week, but Bryce Young also has a chance to be the Grim Reaper here. Outside of that game 2 weeks ago, Bryce Young's had pretty much a lot of good games since coming back. The defense has been up and down in that time span. Overall, they haven't been very good. In the rushing game, they're giving up 6.3 yards per carry. It says a chance for Bucky Irving and Rashad White to have a huge game running the ball. This Bucks team can stray away from the run a little bit, keep the ball in Baker's hands, and try to make him pass all game. But this is a game where they have to run the ball a lot with specifically Bucky Irving. He is fantastic. If they do that, I see them covering in this game. Tampa's defense, though, has struggled versus the pass, third worst and 250.3 yards per game versus the pass. They need to step up there and have a good game. As much as I want to pick the Buccaneers -8, I think the Buccaneers win this game. I'm gonna go with the Panthers +8. I think that's just a very big spread. So
Pricey.
yeah, it got me feeling Bricey. I think he's gonna keep this game close. Panthers +8.
Him him being better than Caleb Williams long term would be like an NFC championship for
Oh
me, I
yeah,
think. That would just be unbelievable. I'll never forget I wanted Bryce Young to be a Lion, him and J-Mo.
yeah. That
What
would
a
have
pair that would have been. I
that
guess
would have been huge.
maybe he still can be.
And I need this Panthers win to get them tied with the Saints so they don't finish last in the division there. So
Oh, I
maybe,
forgot
maybe I'm going maybe I'm going for the Panthers.
you're still sweating that out. Yeah, I forgot about that. Saints in last place. Either way, it won't be that bad because it's going to be
No,
close, even if they don't get
it's,
in.
yeah, it's close no matter what. It's just I'm glad it's this close in general.
Yeah,
So
never forget that that Saints
yeah, yeah.
two games.
After that was maybe the
Never
greatest 2 weeks we've ever seen from an NFL team.
for real, bro, for real. Against well, and they almost beat the Eagles too
Yeah, in week three.
in
Yeah,
that third game, and then ever since then it's been bad. I remember seeing like New Orleans like top five in power rankings after those first two games, and
I thought they were
unbelievable
good.
flop.
I thought
Yeah,
they were good.
maybe they still can be, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. Moving on here to Cowboys at Eagles. Eagles open up as 9 point favorites in this game. Looks like Jalen Hurts is probably going to play. Otherwise, I don't know why they'd be 9 point favorites. This feels like a trap line to pick the Cowboys because they're playing so well, and it's kind of crazy to see them as 9 point dogs. Eagles defense has been on a tear, but so has Cooper Rush. Something's going to have to give in that matchup. Cowboys have been up and down in the running game in the past few. They've had a couple good games, which they really didn't for the first half of the year, but still pretty bad overall running the ball. Dallas's defense has been playing very well, including them being top seven against the run in the past few games. They've been great in that department. Maybe they can kind of stifle Saquon, make Jalen Hurts pass the ball and beat him that way. I don't trust the Eagles offense that much in this matchup, and even though it feels like a trap, I'm gonna ride with the boys +9.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this one. Cowboys have been on a little bit of a heater recently. Cooper Rush has been playing good football, efficient football. He hasn't been turning the ball over. Their defense has been playing a lot better all around. They're getting turnovers, winning that turnover battle, which has been huge for them, and getting a little bit of pressure on the opposing team's quarterback. I agree. The only way this line could be 9 points is because they expect Jalen Hurts to play. Eagles really don't have a huge chance at that number one overall seed, so I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they just don't let Jalen Hurts play in this game. Kenny Pickett versus the Cowboys defense would make this a pretty easy decision for me here, but I'm just going to expect Jalen Hurts to play in this Eagles team. They're at home. I'm going to go with the Eagles -9. I think if Hurts is going, they have a lot of the weapons on offense to go and put up a lot of points. And defensively, as well as Cooper Rush has played, I don't really see him being able to move the ball on this Eagles defense, which has been very good all season against the pass and the run. And the Cowboys offense would be pretty one-dimensional in that case. So I'm going to go Eagles -9 here.
Okay, moving on here to Titans at Jaguars. Biggest draft pick game of the year here. The loser is actually the real winner here. Jags are slight home favorites in this game. Jags are 7-5 in their last 12 versus the Titans at home, so they've been pretty solid there. Jags feel like a slightly better team than the Titans, especially offensively. I trust them a lot more. Titans 3-12 against the spread this year. The Jags do have the least takeaways in football, and the Titans have the most turnovers in football, so something has to give there. I think we'll see the Titans still turn the ball over to this Jags team. I think the Titans end up winning this tank off here, and the Jags cover their 1 point spread.
Oh, wait, you have Jags +1?
-1.
Oh, okay.
Is it not -1? Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
minus
it's
one.
-1. It's -1, yes. Two teams that have been terrible all season, like you said. We get a Mac Jones versus Mason Rudolph battle, which is something that just sounds like it's due for like the USFL or the XFL. That's where this
Can't be
game
the
should
first
be
time that's
played.
happened either. They definitely had to have played, right?
Yeah, it
At
wouldn't it
some
wouldn't
point.
shock me if they have played already, but two quarterbacks you don't really like to see. Jacksonville has more weapons right now offensively, it seems. Or I guess not, but Brian Thomas has been huge. I like this Jags team to just get it done. The one that I use as the Jags at 7-7-1 against the spread, as the Titans only being 2-13, the worst team against the spread by far. I'm just gonna bet with that there. So I'm gonna go Jaguars -1. I don't like either of these teams at all. I don't think. I mean, obviously they're two of the worst teams in football. This is basically a draft pick game, but the game is in Jacksonville. They get a home game here. I think they find a way to get it done and hurt their draft pick for them, unfortunately. But yeah, Jags -1.
Okay, moving on here to Raiders at Saints. If Derek Carr's in here, it will be a Derek Carr revenge game against the Raiders. Saints are home dogs after an embarrassing performance on Monday Night Football. Vegas's defense is definitely better than New Orleans, but I trust their quarterback play more. If it's not Derek Carr, if it is Derek Carr, I trust New Orleans more. AOC has been a solid quarterback this year. I think they will be able to score versus Nola. Nola's rush defense has been very bad. We'll see if Vegas can get that game going. Without Sincere McCormick, though, they just haven't been able to do anything there. Nola's red zone defense has been good. They need to hold Vegas to field goals. I think they will hold Vegas to field goals in this game. I'm very torn. The Saints are a bad tanking team, so I'm gonna take the Saints to win this game. But I don't know. I don't think Derek Carr is gonna play. I just don't. I can't imagine they'd be 1.5 point dogs if he was playing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that
If he
completely,
does
but
get ruled in, maybe they'll be favorites. But I'll take the Saints regardless of what they're.
yeah, Spencer Rattler versus AOC. I really give that matchup to AOC. I think AOC is
Definitely.
a solid quarterback. He has more weapons right now with Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. I like the Raiders in this one. I think AOC can easily win that QB duel. Even if Derek Carr's in there, I think this is still a very close game. I'm going to bet AOC to get the ball to Bowers, who's been one of the best rookies all season, get it to Jacoby Myers. This Raiders defense, they're not one of the better defense, but they have the facilities to slow down the Saints offense, who really don't have any weapons. I don't know the status on Alvin Kamara, if he would be ready to go. I don't know if they'd really want him to go out there or not, but it does say he's hopeful to play this week. So if they have Kamara and Carr, I can easily see this line move, and maybe I switch. But for right now, with Derek Carr potentially not playing, I'm gonna go with the Raiders -1.5.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just saw most arrests since 2000 graphic of the NFL teams. I don't know if this is real, but do you want to
Who's in
guess who's number
first?
one?
Raiders.
No, Raiders are middle. They're 25 arrests since 2000.
Oh wow.
Number
Um,
one is the Broncos at 47. Then it's
does this count current players?
Dude, I don't know. It might be a fake graphic.
Uh,
Vikings 46, second
yeah,
most arrests. The two least are the Eagles and the Lions at 15. I don't know.
yeah. I don't.
Colts are up there 31.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't
what?
know.
This is what's the time span?
Since 2000.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean this could absolutely
I
be
can only
fake.
think of one Colts player that's ever been arrested during a season or off season,
31.
and he got acquitted or whatever. It
This
was like
has to
a
be this has to be fake.
yeah.
It's because it's in response to the whole Jordan Addison versus Brandon Joseph thing. I don't know if you saw that.
I
Brandon
have
Joseph
not.
got a DUI and the Lions cut him in an hour. Jordan
Oh,
Addison gets one and whatever. His
different levels.
yeah, obviously his day will come and I will be there to celebrate that. But moving on here to Dolphins at Browns. I just love justice. What can I say? Dolphins are still in the running for the playoffs here, barely. Dolphins are brutal in cold weather though, so this 6.5 point spread is very interesting. Cleveland's defense has been playing well, actually. They're sixth versus the pass in the last three games, especially when they played a guy like Joe Burrow. It looks like DTR will be at quarterback here, so it's going to be a tough offensive day versus this good Miami defense for the Browns. I expect a very low scoring game here. Miami's pass rush is not great, so that is probably pretty brutal. It's good for them against this brutal offensive line with Cleveland. I just I can't take Miami on a 6.5 point spread in cold weather. So I know the Browns like they get me every week because I keep betting on them, but I'm gonna stick with the Browns at 6.5.
Yeah, this is a must win for the Dolphins. Going into a cold weather game is concerning, but they are desperate. They need a win. Uh, for the Browns, a loss would improve their draft pick. They kind of need a loss. They're starting DTR now, who, if this was Jameis Winston, I could see myself potentially taking the Browns because he could get hot playing better in the cold weather around Christmas, but I just don't trust DTR at all. The rushing attack will be maybe a little bit better, but they'll have virtually no passing game against this Dolphins defense. I'm going to bet on Miami to finally wake up. They get a chance to play a bad team in cold weather. I think they could have a chance there. They need to get the ball going with Achane in the run game. There's a lot of the times where they don't really run the ball very well with him at all. He's mostly just the main guy in the passing attack, but I think they need to get the run game going there. Start getting the ball to Tyreek Hill, which I would really like to see Achane and Hill have some big games. I'm as a person in a fantasy football championship. which now that I think about it, I have Achan in one, and I'm going against Achan in the other. So never ideal
Yeah.
to go do that in a fantasy championship. So maybe he just has a solid day. But
I'd almost
I
argue
think
that's worse if he has a solid day.
just like a 15.
I'd be rooting for either a 40 or a 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just
It's
get
a
in the
win.
middle.
It's a
Don't do.
win-win or win-lose regardless. There's no situation where it isn't good for you.
Yeah, I guess. But I think the Dolphins are gonna get it done. Finally win that cold weather game. They're desperate for a win, so I'm going Dolphins minus 6.5.
Okay, we'll move on to Packers at Vikings here. Huge game for the Lions. Toyotathon is on. Like you said, Love was great on Monday Night Football. He wasn't great on Monday Night Football. The Packers were great on Monday Night Football. Green Bay allows the second least sacks per game. That's a great matchup versus this great pass rush here. They're going to be able to protect Jordan Love. Packers do turn the ball over a decent amount. Minnesota's second in takeaways, so they're going to have to hold on to the ball to win this game. Green Bay is eighth versus the pass and seventh versus the run. They should be able to hold Darnold a bit in this one. I don't think we're going to see a monster offensive performance from Minnesota at all. Minnesota's red zone defense isn't great. When Green Bay gets down there, they're going to have to convert, not have to settle for field goals. I don't see Minnesota sweeping Green Bay this year. Maybe it's wishful thinking from me, but I'm going to take the Packers +1 and doing Detroit a favor.
Okay, it wasn't HN, it's Gibbs that I'm worried about. I have Gibbs in one and I'm playing Gibbs in the other, so HN can have a huge game. But going on to this game, Packers are 0-4 versus teams that currently have 10 plus wins. Those four losses are twice to the Lions, which have been a tank, and then the Vikings earlier in the season, and then that week one game in Brazil against Philadelphia, which I don't put too much on them, just a wild game to have week one
You
in
said
Brazil.
against Brazil and Philadelphia.
Oh, in
Played the
Brazil
Brazil national
against,
team.
yeah. If they lost to the Brazil national team, they're in big trouble.
Yeah. Might be
um,
fast though.
yeah. But they are 10-0 versus teams that have 9 wins or less. I think this is their chance to finally go out and have a win against one of the better teams in the Vikings. It does concern me that it's in Minnesota. This Vikings team has been very good at home. Sam Darnold has obviously been good at home. He's been great all season. Big game for the Vikings. If they win, they somehow, unexpectedly, especially at the start of the season, would have gotten their chance in Week 18 to go play for the number one overall seed in the NFC and a chance to win the NFC North. Something we just would not have expected. But I think the Packers get it done this weekend. Toyotathon for Jordan Love. They are coming off of a short week in Minnesota. A lot against them, but I trust this team. The Packers have just been better with Matt LaFleur late in the season, especially in the month of December. I'm going Packers +1.
I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but if I think either something's going to happen really shady in this game for Minnesota to win, and if it doesn't and the Packers win, I think we're going to see some shady shit on Monday Night Football with the Lions. I think the NFL is going to do whatever they can to make that a win and end game. I really do. I don't care if it's a conspiracy. I think they're going to do whatever they can to make that happen.
I don't know.
But that
I
also
think I
goes.
don't. I think
Good.
the line or the line should be able to take over, and not even put that game in the refs' hands at all.
I agree. I agree. But I mean, it can happen.
I'm not a conspiracy
Conspiracy.
guy,
Yeah. Well, Jordan Love is, I
conspiracy
guess.
theorist.
Yeah. We'll move on here to Falcons at Commanders. Great Sunday night football game here. Part of me was kind of hoping they'd flex it out for Green Bay and the Vikings, but they already flexed the Vikings to 4:30. They're 4:30 Eastern. Commanders open as 4-point favorites at home in this one. Huge spot for Penix here in his second game. Commanders defense has been pretty solid versus the pass and pretty bad versus the run. Should be a big game for Bijan, and Penix is going to need Bijan to have a good game here. Atlanta is pretty bad in the red zone offensively, but Washington is bad there defensively too. Atlanta's O line should be able to protect Penis in this game. We'll see how that goes for them. Commanders D line is up and down, so we'll see if they're able to get to him. I'm so back and forth on this game that I'm going to take Atlanta +4 because I can see either team winning. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't love either of these teams.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought last week after that Commanders win, they had clinched themselves a playoff spot. They have not. If they lose out and both the Falcons and Buccaneers both win out, which the Falcons have a chance here to get that win, they would be eliminated, and the Falcons and Commanders would both make the playoffs with the Falcons winning the
Falcons and
division.
Bucks.
Falcons and Bucks,
Yeah,
yes, both making the playoffs, and the Commanders missing the playoffs after a great season. They have a chance though here at
awesome.
home to,
Cowboys are a spoiler team too, so
and
it's
yeah,
not out
they
of the
play the
question.
Cowboys. Yes, that's not out of the question. They already lost to the Cowboys earlier in the season. I think the Cowboys would be at home in that game though, if I'm not mistaken.
Would be. I'm pretty sure the Cowboys beat them
Yes,
in
yeah.
Washington. Yeah.
Which that maybe is an advantage towards the Commanders right now with how the
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Cowboys are at home. Jane Daniels has been clutch all season. He has a chance to be clutch in this game. He definitely has the experience advantage somehow now against the Falcons here. This spread's a little bit closer than I would have expected with this only being Michael Penix's second game. We do get a battle of two first-round quarterbacks. I think the Falcons are going to stay in this game. We saw last week they gave the ball to Bijan Robinson a lot. He had a big game. The Commanders give up 137.4 rushing yards per game, third worst in the NFL. Penix is in a big position, but I think they're going to rely a lot on that rushing attack, make him not have to do too much, and I think they just keep the game close. So I'm with you. I'm also going to go Falcons +4.
Okay, last game here. Lions at 49ers, Monday Night Football, the last Monday Night Football game of the season. This game may or may not mean anything for the Lions by kickoff, but they're going to want to win this one regardless. We saw what happened the last time the Lions wanted revenge. They got their get back in Dallas earlier this year. I think they're going to try to get their get back in San Francisco here. San Francisco's been pretty solid versus the pass, pretty bad versus the run. I think we see the Lions have a good offensive day. I think Gibbs is going to have a fantastic day for the Lions here. Lions outside garbage that they say is old. They're going to play well here. It's also not even going to be that cold, probably. They're going to play well in this game. Lions secondary isn't great right now, but last week, moving Amik Robertson outside was phenomenal. We saw it's not always great for a corner to get his name called a ton. We saw his name get called a ton, but it was for good reasons against the Bears last week. He played great on the outside, first time playing on the outside this year. They were able to move Branch up to the slot and then be able to put Ifatu Melifonwu at the other safety position with Kirby Joseph, and that helped the secondary, who's beat up a ton. 49ers have the third worst red zone defense in football. We know the Lions are dominant down there. Should be a good game for them in that department. Lions are 9-2 under Dan Campbell in prime time. They're opened at 3.5 point favorites. They've moved up to four now. I think they cover that in the Lions -4.
Yeah, Lions should really dominate this game. This spread being this close, I think I saw it at, yeah, it's at 3, but -120 +100, so it'll probably move.
So it's a 3.5 now then.
It's at 3, but essentially three and a
Yeah,
half, I
essentially.
guess.
Okay, cool. Because I looked earlier and it was at fully at four, so I must have just went
Yeah.
down. So I'll take 3.5. Yeah.
I mean, you look at the bets on it. I think looking at this, I'm shocked that it's only 3 points. We have a Lions team that is currently first in the NFC, and then an eliminated 49ers team, which hasn't very looked very good recently. I guess they have no pressure on this Niners team at all. They're mathematically eliminated. Really don't have too much to play for. But this Lions team, they're going to be out for revenge after that NFC Championship game last season where they should have won that game. Jared Goff, like you said, playing outside. This is the third Lions game outside this season. He's 2-0 in those. Looked very good in both of those games. I think that's going to continue. Lions are 6-1 against the spread on the road this season. And this being 3 points, I mean, it seems just too easy as a bet. But I'm going Lions -3.
What game did they not cover? Oh, Texans. Yeah, they missed the
Yeah,
Texans by a half point. Yeah, that was the one game they didn't cover on the road. But
yeah.
okay, we'll move on here to our best bets. Week 17. I will lead us off. Speaking of the Texans, I'm going to take them +5.5. I think they cover versus Ravens team. I think it's a solid matchup for them. They're going to be able to be good defensively. Like you said, I don't know if they win because I don't know if they'll be able to hold the Ravens to 22 points or less, but I think we can get something like a 28-24 game here, and the Texans could cover the spread.
Yeah, okay. For my first best bet, I'm going to go with something you didn't take, but I'm going to go with Colts -8. I think this is a game the Colts go out and dominate. They're going to be able to run the football all game long. I think they're going to dominate in that aspect. I'm going Colts -8. I think they're just going to dominate this game. And this is a game the Colts usually dominate and then blow next week.
Right. Um, I'm going to take the Lions -3.5 as my other one for all the reasons we just said 2 seconds ago. I just think they're a much better team than San Francisco. We see the Lions just get up for primetime game over and over and over. They're better than this Niners team. This is a game where, similar to what we saw in the Dallas game when the Lions like legit just piled it on them, I could see that happening in this game and the Lions trying to blow the doors off them. So you need the Lions -3.5.
Okay, for my second best bet, I'm gonna go Chargers -4. I think the Patriots are a solid team. I think this Chargers team is getting J.K. Dobbins back is gonna be huge. They're gonna be able to run the football and get ahead early. I think they're gonna dominate this game. I got Chargers -4.
Okay, my last one here. I'm going to go with the between two. Give me the Bucks -8. I'll take the Bucks -8. I think they're going to bounce back from that loss last week. I think they're going to blow the doors off Carolina. Carolina, I think they can be a good scrappy team, but like I said, Bryce Young's kind of been in every other game, have a great game guy, and then also they've just been way better at home than on the road. So give me the Bucks -8 against Carolina at home.
Okay, for my last best bet, last week I've had my first week of the season where I didn't win a single best bet. That um, really hurt. I went, I think, 0-2-1. Unfortunate, but I've been very good overall betting unders. I'm gonna try to get back at it. I'm gonna go Packers Vikings under 48.5. Division game, two solid defenses. I think they keep it low scoring. It is an indoor game in Minnesota, but I still like this game to be low scoring. Two division rivals, two good defenses. I think they keep it low scoring. So under 48.5 there.
All right, that will be about it for this episode of the Engage A podcast. We will be back on Monday or Tuesday to recap all these games, talk about what we saw, give our opinions on everything, and then a week from today, we will be back to do our final preview of Week 18. We'll also discuss the college football games in that episode as well. Or will we? Yeah, we will. We'll have seen them all at that point. Yeah. Or, oh, actually, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we'll have to push back recording next week to make sure we see all those games because
Yeah,
they all happen on Wednesday. But regardless, don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the video and the channel. All of our links are in the description for TikTok, Twitter, social media, Spotify, all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.